Have I ever actually gone over the rules for life? I don't think I actually have. Yeah. These are JP's first 12 rules for life. Which, by the way, if these are the 12 rules, I don't know how you can make another 12 rules that you just so happen to crank out in a book right after you run into financial trouble because you went to Russia for experimental brain stuff and your daughter runs everything in your life and you're dying because you only eat meat. You know? So seems like they may have cranked that one out. But like, what are the vibes we're getting at here? Let's identify. Vaush, self-help expert, Sigma male, it is known. Throwing it out there. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. You can see it with a lot of people when they're in public spaces, they slouch a little bit. And it's not just a posture thing. The posture is important. It's also about having the confidence to take up physical space. Everybody has the right, physically and metaphysically, to take up physical space in the area that they're around. Everybody does. Some people, they just try to avoid notice. They're apologetic with their behavior, you know? The way they look, the way they act, the way they talk. But you should have your shoulders, you know, your shoulders back. You should stand up straight. You should look people in the eye when you talk to them. And you should speak loudly so that people can hear you, you know? Nothing bothered me more when I was doing a service job when I saw some, like, really sad sack, like, you know, depressive person come in, and they would, like, talk too quiet for me to hear them. And, like, I get that they're going through stuff. I'm not going to blame them for it, but, like, you ask them to speak up, and you can tell that they're dying inside being asked to speak up, you know what I mean? But that's the thing, even if you have, like, social anxiety or whatever, if you speak so quietly that people are going to ask you to speak up, you're going to have to do it anyway. You might as well start confident enough to open with the big boy voice. You know what I'm saying? That's that confidence thing. Not just about posture. Treat yourself like you are someone you are responsible for helping. One of the big issues people have is that they're so down on themselves that they don't treat themselves with the same respect they would treat other people. But you should always be your first priority. I mean, unless you're like a parent with kids or whatever. But I mean, when it comes to like dealing with your life day to day, like you're the vessel. You know what they say, even when a plane's going down and the oxygen masks drop from the ceiling, you help yourself before the next person. You know why? Because if you're trying to put a mask on somebody else, but you're not getting any air yourself, you might pass out before you help them, and then you're fucking dead. You know? Especially if you give it to like a kid. What is a 4-year-old going to put a mask on you? Get real. No. Ridiculous. Yeah, everyone say a thing you like about yourself. Get in there. Come on. Post in chat. Yeah, get in there. Anyway, very important, you know? Treat yourself, your mind, and your body like something that's on loan to you from, like, future you. You know what I mean? Let's say it's like this constant ongoing cycle of ownership that you're only occupying a very brief temporal period for. Because everyone always says, you know, oh, whatever, if I do this, it's going to be my older self who suffers the consequences. Don't be stupid. Your older self is you. In the future. Do you not realize? Oh, if I do that, this is a problem for future me. You are future you. It's not a different person. It's you. Be careful, folks. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to someone else, not to who somebody else is today. You're the person you should compare yourself to. Self-improvement, big stuff, okay? Think of your favorite story, okay? Who here has read or watched Lord of the Rings, okay? How highly do you think of Samwise Gamgee and Frodo last name? Oh, I think they're Baggins. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, it slipped my mind. Personally, I think they're kings. Now, do you think it bothers them that they're not as tall or as strong or as fast or as smart as many of the other characters? It shouldn't. They had their own hero stories, okay? They did their own whole thing. Yes, anybody who thinks they're bothered by that does not know how hobbits work in the Tolkien universe. The whole point was that their own personal journey from humble beginnings, okay? It's very pog. All right? Get in it, people. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. That's a weird one. I don't know if I agree about that. What does that even mean? Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them? Wait, okay, so this is a very interesting, funny for Jordan Peterson, who's supposed to be the master of personal responsibility, makes you dislike them. You have control over how you interpret other people. So why is it that you assign infinite control over your children from you, but you don't talk about the control you have over your own reaction to your children's behavior? Maybe if your child does something you dislike, the problem is with you, Maybe you need to adjust your standards or values. This is some control freak shit. It's authoritarianism for sure. Yeah, and like, what does this mean? Like, don't let your kids be gay? Lots of people don't like gay people. Like, what do you mean? Like, conversion therapy? What is the consequence of this? If your kid does stuff that you dislike, that's just part of life, dude. Kids are real-ass people. Like, they're going to be annoying. You're not going to like every element of your kid, right? Because they're other people. They're not like miniature versions of you. Even my best friends do things that make me dislike them sometimes. So why would a kid be any different? Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. This one is so bad for so many reasons. First of all, it's hypocritical because he wrote this while his life was an absolute shambles in the background. Second of all, this is one of those tenets where he's trying to push like social conservatism. Essentially, the idea is you don't have the right to change the world until you have addressed whatever problems there are in your personal life. The problem is, problems in your personal life are often caused by problems in the world. Poverty and stress cause massive problems in your personal life, but they're also systemic problems which can be fixed with government policy. Likewise, Jordan Peterson has reached tens of millions of people, and his life was an absolute shambles. So what does that say about him? Does he actually believe this, or does he just want other people to follow it? The implication here fundamentally is that unless all of your life is already taken care of, which kind of implicitly suggests that you're wealthy and like normatively successful, you don't have the right to change the world. I mean, this is fundamentally the same argument that people made about landowners being the only ones who should be able to vote. Because back in the day, the idea was that only the most affluent and successful in society should be allowed the privilege of determining the direction the government goes. This is basically a modern-day version of that rule, saying that only the privileged, or those privileged enough to have at least overcome personal problems that they deal with, should be the ones to actually like go forward and change things. Yes, it's a big meme. JP gets made fun of a lot for stuff like this, and I think it's totally fair. Dude's a hypocrite. Very cringe. Not good. Very bad. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. I guess this is fine, but it's also kind of meaningless. Pursue what is meaningful is a pretty vacuous statement. I mean, I guess? Like, you might as well write, like, do things that are good. It also doesn't make much of a distinction between what is meaningful to you and what is, like, meaningful to Jordan Peterson, you know? Pursue what is meaningful, like, just purely to you? Like, what does that even mean? Number 10, be precise in your speech. Again, the idea that Jordan Peterson would say this is so funny to me. Have you ever listened to this guy talk? He speaks in such long, rambling, meaningless, like, anecdotal diatribes. He is so long-winded and word-salady. And so much of the stuff that he says, by the way, is, like, kind of philosophically bankrupt as well. Like, a lot of the ideas that he's trying to express, politically, historically, philosophically, are really dumb, but he dresses it up in such flowery language that it becomes really difficult to understand what he's saying, and that's why a lot of people respect him. Yeah, academically incorrect as well, for sure. And then we got Beyond Order, which is the next 12 Rules for Life, you know? The banger sequel that he threw out there. 432 pages, my goodness. Well, do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement. So, I like this one nominally. I like this one as it's written, but there is an interesting implication here. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions. Well, what does Jordan Peterson consider to be a careless denigration? You know what I mean? Because I agree. Whenever you're denigrating anything, you should be careful about it. But the problem is that Jordan Peterson has compared like trans activists to Mao Zedong, you know? He's compared progressives to Stalin. He said that their ideologies are identical. So he constantly and incredibly carelessly denigrates social institutions and forces he disagrees with. Remember when he lied about Bill C-16? Just completely bald-facedly lied about it? Like, he does this all the time. So what does he mean when he says, don't carefully denigrate social institutions? Well, to me, it sounds like he's saying, you fools, you postmodern neo-Marxists, you don't understand what Western civilization has done for you. Like, that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like he's essentially saying, you have no idea what you're doing, you know, like that thing. Number 2, Imagine who you could be and then aim single-mindedly at that. This is incredibly stupid. This is actually, I would actually go so far as to say this is very bad advice, okay? Imagining who you could be is not the same as, like, envisioning the best version of yourself. Those are very different things. This isn't the same as follow your dreams. The problem is that imagining who you could be is often like a process informing an almost cartoonishly characterized version of yourself. Imagining who you could be, like, what does that mean? What does could be mean? Like something that's achievable in a 1 in a million shot? Or something that is realistic? This could be a very self-destructive process. Do not hide unwanted things in the fog. Okay. Like I said, this is the follow-up book, so these rules weren't thought through as much. Sure. True. Don't do that. Avoid doing that. Allegorically, I'm guessing, yeah, this means, like, don't bury your trauma or whatever. And great? Sure? You know? Do you feel like this might be a little bit, self-reporting after the whole Benzos incident? You know what I mean? Like, after he spent, like, years drifting mindlessly through drug fog in his brain, you know? He's, like, coming out of that. Yeah, he's got a lot of fog in his head, and he's like, don't... Like, he woke up somewhere on, like, a Russian operating table. Don't hide... The fog! You must avoid the fog! And then he, like, fell back asleep for 6 months. And then somebody reminded him of that when he woke up, and he was like, Then he wrote the other... Yeah, what happened to being precise with your speech? All right. Number 6, abandon ideology. I love this one. So this is why you can safely laugh at anything and everything that Jordan Peterson has to say ever for anything, okay? This is ideology. You are literally consuming ideology as you read this book, okay? This is the pure distilled wubba-lubba-dub-dub energy of the kind of, like, sophist, like, anti-intellectual, anti-SJW who legitimately believes everything they believe is product of some kind of pure reason. The funny thing is, Jordan Peterson doesn't even advocate for pure reason. He doesn't. He explicitly frames his worldview in a framework of his ideology. He explicitly talks about Judeo-Christian values and Western civilization informing the things he believes. He himself breaks this rule. What does this mean, abandon ideology? The most charitable thing that you could derive from this is try to arrive at your positions through, like, strong reasoning, not just because they correlate to the beliefs that people who already hold your ideology hold, but that's not what he's saying. He's saying abandon ideology, you know? And by the way, the implication from this is pretty clear because you know what he's really saying. Abandon, like, SJW ideology. Because what he's saying isn't ideology, you know? When Black Lives Matter and feminists and postmodern cultural Marxists or whatever, when they spill their dogma, that's ideology. But when Jordan Peterson talks, he's just talking. It's a whole other thing, you know? Vaush, some of these criticisms aren't fair. I imagine these rules are followed up by chapters that would give more context/meaning to these rules. While that's true, I mean, I guess I could read a 432-page book. The problem is that Jordan Peterson is a shiftless coward who will say things whenever it's, like, convenient to him and then abandon them later when it's more convenient to believe in other things. So I don't actually give a fuck what the context is. He does this so often. And a lot of the worst stuff that he believes is only expressed through implication. So I don't particularly care what he adds. Most people are going to just see the rules. If he wanted the rules to contain more context, then he could have made them longer, or he could have made them more than one sentence, but he didn't, so there we go.